Okay, welcome to the next session with George Juneau. Actually, Java Juneau, right?
That's correct.
So
on Twitter.
The Twitter handle is Java Juneau, and JJ Blogger is your blog.
That's correct.
And you are very famous for the analysis, which specs were active and which aren't, right?
Sure.
So, perfect. So now, welcome to the Jakarta EE, an overview of features session, right? With
That's
our
correct.
compatible hardware.
Have to have your sip of coffee first, yes.
So let's share the screen and let's go.
Sounds great. I appreciate it, Adam. Are you seeing my slide? Everything look okay?
Your slides are beautiful. Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, so this is Jakarta EE8, an overview of features. Basically, what I'm going to do in this session is go over each of the different projects and specifications that are used to compose the Jakarta EE8 platform. So as we're going through this session, you're going to hear the new names of the specifications, and we are going to go over first a brief history. I'm going to provide a quick overview of each of the specifications, diving deeper into some of those that have recently had newer features added. While I'm going through the different specifications, I will cover some of the most notable features from the latest release. And we're going to take a look into the near future then and see what that may hold for Jakarta EE. So give me one moment here. Excuse me. I'm going to stop sharing just for one moment. Seems as though my screen is going dark on me. Can you see that slide?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so what exactly is Jakarta EE? It has quite a history. It's been known by a few different names throughout its history. In '99, Java 2 Enterprise Edition was released by Sun Microsystems, and in the J2EE era, releases did occur about every 2 years, and there was a wide adoption of the platform, but there was increasing complexity, and the standards were always changing, so technology was constantly evolving. In 2006, Java EE was born. Sun Microsystems rebranded J2EE as Java EE and focused on reducing the complexity of the platform. And in 2017, Oracle released Java EE8, and this made great strides forward towards making a more cloud-native and microservices robust platform. And then they did announce that they were open sourcing the platform. And they did this open source to the Eclipse Foundation, along with the TCK and the specifications. So this is very important. And Jakarta EE is then what the new platform is going to be known as. And if you look at the overall project, there is a top-level project known as EE4J. And this is kind of the umbrella project for all of the different underlying projects. Jakarta EE is governed by the Jakarta EE Working Group, and the Jakarta EE8 release is equal to Java EE8 as far as parity goes. So what exactly is Jakarta EE? Well, like I had mentioned, Jakarta EE8 is equal to Java EE8, but we're going to say not really equal to, because there is a brand new project naming convention, as I had mentioned at the top of this session, and we're going to be going through all of the new names as we make it through this session. And the open source TCK is very important because for the first time ever, lots of people are seeing the lines of code that make up the TCK, and we're able to go ahead and use this TCK to make different containers compatible and run all of our tests to ensure that we are Jakarta EE8 compliant. Eclipse Glassfish is the open source implementation of Glassfish, and Eclipse Glassfish 5.1 is fully Jakarta EE8 compatible. And I believe Kevin also said Open Liberty is available today with Jakarta EE8 compatibility, so that's great. There is a new specification process, and if you want to get into the entire specification process to learn about that, Kevin's session did have quite a bit on the process. Give me just one moment. Looks as though I'm going to have some issues with my slides. Just give me 1 second. Let me go ahead and share this screen again. I apologize. Okay. So, although the source code has been open sourced to the Eclipse Foundation, it is being released in parity to the Java EE8 platform release. And there are some significant changes that cannot be taken very lightly, as I had mentioned, as we can see, the new project naming, the open source TCK, and Eclipse Glassfish. So I had mentioned earlier about EE4J. So this is the top level project at the Eclipse Foundation. All the projects that create the Jakarta EE8 platform are underneath this project. The Eclipse EE4J Project Management Committee is responsible for maintaining all of the top level project, and it will set the standards and requirements for all the different releases. All the individual projects for the Jakarta EE platform are under this umbrella, and together they unify to form the platform. So how do we get started today? That's important because we want to go off and develop applications on Jakarta EE8. So first thing you need to do is download Glassfish 5.1, or as I had seen in the earlier session, like I mentioned, Open Liberty. And you download that and just start incorporating the specifications into your project. It is released today, so you can go out and get started right away. There's some great examples online. I have thrown a couple of URLs here on screen, and you'll also see them in my slideshow. So we're going to go through an overview of the different specifications now. And I'd like to jump through each of the Jakarta EE8 projects. There's a total of 27 participating projects that were released with Jakarta EE8, including the umbrella project. And so let's step through, and we're going to see that a number of the projects were updated for the Java EE8 release, which was back in 2017. And hence, I'm going to refer to these as the most recently updated projects. And those that are on the screen and noted as maintenance releases have made some forward progression for maintenance purposes with the release of Java EE8 in 2017. And I'm going to note that each of the projects in the Jakarta EE8 platform have had service releases in order to make it to Jakarta EE8 compliancy. So let's take a look through each of the projects that compose the Jakarta EE platform. And I'm going to touch upon most of these projects, just providing a brief explanation. When I come across a project that has had significant enhancements in the past couple of years, then I'm going to go into a bit more detail on those new features. So starting off, the Jakarta Annotations defines a collection of annotations representing common semantic concepts that enable a declarative style of programming that applies across a variety of different Java technologies. The standalone release of Jakarta Annotations uses the Java Platform Module System automatic module name of java.annotation to match the module name used in JDK 9. A future version will include full module metadata. So service release 1.3.5 is being shipped as part of Jakarta EE8. Jakarta Authentication. This pertains to the Java Authentication Service Provider Interface for Containers, or JASPIC, as you may know it. The service provider interface by which authentication providers that implement message authentication mechanisms may be integrated in client or server message processing containers or runtimes. So service release as part of Jakarta EE8 is 1.1.3, and it's based upon JSR 196, Java Authentication Service Provider Network for Containers. Jakarta Authorization is the contract for containers, JACC. It defines a contract between Jakarta EE application server and an authorization policy provider. So service release 1.6.2 is based upon JSR 115, the Java authorization contract for containers. And that is part of Jakarta EE8 platform. Jakarta Batch Project describes XML-based job specification language, or JSL, Java programming model, and runtime environment for batch applications for the Java platform. So the specification ties together with the Java API and the JSL, allowing a job designer to compose a job in XML form, Java application artifacts, and conveniently parameterize them with values for an individual job. This structure promotes application reuse and artifacts across different jobs. So the key features are checkpoint, restart, steps, XML configuration, and partitions. Release 1.0 is part of Jakarta EE8. Jakarta Bean Validation. So bean validation allows constraints to be expressed via annotations. It allows for customized constraints, provides APIs for validating objects and object graphs, provides APIs for validating parameters and return values of methods and constructors, and reports on the set of violations. This also runs on Java SE, and release 2.0 is part of Jakarta EE8. One of my favorites, Jakarta Concurrency. It provides a number of server-side resources for managing concurrent tasks within our apps. Now, we don't want to have threads being spawned off from our enterprise applications. So instead, we pass processes off to the managed executor services that are in the container, and they process the task, and then they will finish and return the payload when the process has completed. So this allows our applications to become more concurrent. And release 1.1.2 is a service release, and it is primarily going to contain the same features as 1.0. That's part of Jakarta EE8. Jakarta Connectors Overview. So the Jakarta EE connector architecture defines a standard architecture for Jakarta EE application components to connect to enterprise information systems. And release 1.7.3 is a service release and is part of Jakarta EE8. Jakarta Context and Dependency Injection. This is one of the larger releases over the past couple of years. So Jakarta Context and Dependency Injection defines a powerful set of complementary services to help improve the structure and application of your code. It is a key technology for Jakarta EE. It defines a well-defined lifecycle for stateful objects bound to lifecycle contexts, where the set of contexts is extensible. Are you still seeing my screen, by the way? I'm just making sure.
Yes, it looks perfect.
Perfect. Thank you. So it also has a sophisticated type-safe dependency injection mechanism, including the ability to select dependencies at either development or deployment time without verbose configuration. Support for Jakarta EE modularity and the Jakarta EE component, integration with the Unified Expression Language, or EL, the ability to decorate injected objects, ability to associate interceptors to objects in a type-safe interceptor bindings. It has an event notification model, a web conversion context, in addition to 3 standard web contexts defined by the Jakarta Servlet specification. It also does have an SPI allowing portable extensions to integrate cleanly with the container. Release 2.0 is part of Jakarta EE8. So just to take a look at one of the newer features of CDI, it is observers ordering, which allows one to specify a priority on the observer methods. So without indicating a priority, there really is no way to determine which order the observers will be initiated in the event that more than one exists. So this is a good way to go ahead and ensure your observers are running in the correct order. And also another new feature would be the async events. This provides the ability for events to process in an asynchronous manner. Just annotate an observer method parameter with observes async, call upon the fire async to fire the event. Some other important new features in CDI include Java SE Bootstrap. It's now possible to harness the full power of CDI in a Java SE application as well by creating the SE container initializer. So Jakarta Enterprise Beans is a mature architecture for development and this has been around for quite a number of years now, but it's used in component-based business applications. Although Enterprise Beans have been around for a long time, they've matured quite a bit over the past few releases of Java EE, and now in Jakarta EE, they're even more powerful than ever because they include all of the features that came with the last couple of years. Features such as singleton, asynchronous, and the ability to create timers with a schedule. So just about everything can be done with annotations now, and this really makes development using Jakarta Enterprise Beans much easier than the XML configurations we used to have to do in the past. One can utilize stateful and stateless annotations to generate stateful and stateless session beans, respectively. And EJBs can be injected into CDI beans using the EJB annotation. Service release 3.2.4 is included with Jakarta EE8. If we look at the Jakarta expression language, it provides a means for enabling presentation layers to communicate with application logic. EL is used by several Java EE or Jakarta EE technologies, such as Jakarta Servlet-Push technology, Jakarta Pages technology, and CDI. EL can also be used in standalone environments. Service release 3.0.3 is included in Jakarta EE8. Jakarta Interceptors interpose on business method invocations and specific events such as lifecycle events and timeout events that occur in instances of Jakarta EE components or other managed classes. This project implements JSR 3.18, Enterprise Java Beans 3.1, and Interceptors 1.2 spec. In this example, you can see that the interceptor is being applied to a method which accepts text, and all of that text entered is going to be modified into uppercase. So service release 1.2.4 is included with Jakarta EE8. Jakarta JSON binding, or JSON-B, this was brand new in Java EE8. And so this is a bigger release, and I will mention a little bit more about it. It's a standard way to convert Java objects to and from JSON objects. This project defines a default mapping algorithm for converting Java POJOs to JSON. So the developer may also customize mapping via the use of different Java annotations. And this, as I mentioned, was the new release. And so service release 1.0.2 is part of Jakarta EE8. So let's take a little dive into this. So Jakarta binding JSON object to a Java object is as easy as creating a JSON-B object from the JSON builder. And then you just call upon the dot from JSON method, passing the text to the Java class, and it will return that POJO fully populated from the JSON. We can also create JSON from an existing POJO that's populated. Just go ahead and create that object, and then use the JSON-B builder to create the JSON object, and call upon toJSON, and that will return a string in JSON format. And then JSON-B also has the ability to take lists of objects as well. So we can add a number of objects in an array to the JSON builder and call upon to JSON. So the JSONB runtime API provides access to serialization and deserialization operations for manipulating JSON documents and mapped JSONB classes and instances. It's a good idea to read over this specification because it's really a short one, about 30 pages long, and it has a great deal of insight on using the API. Default mapping is available for basic JSON documents, and mapping can be customized in many ways, particularly with annotations for compile time mapping, and the JSON config class can be used to pass the JSON builder to create method for runtime customizations. Another biggie was Jakarta JSON processing. So there are quite a few new features in the past couple of years with this one. JSON processing is an API to process JSON documents. So with this API, one can parse, generate, transform, query, and patch JSON documents. The familiar API can be used to build Java object model for JSON. Service release 1.1.6 is part of Jakarta EE 8. So some of the latest features of JSON processing are the ability to point to specific elements within a JSON document using a JSON pointer, and the ability to modify specified portions of a document using JSON patch. Editing and transformation of operations added to the JSON object model as well, and better alignment with some of the features that were brought into Java SE 8. So Jakarta JSON pointers allows one to point to a particular value within a JSON document. The JSON pointer can be created by calling upon JSON.createPointer and then passing a specified index and respective element names. And call upon pointer.getValue to obtain the pointer. And it's possible to build a patch or patch an expression using the JSON patch builder object. This is a builder for constructing new JSON patch and adding patch operations incrementally. It's possible to append a series of patch operations to a single patch builder and apply it all at once. Very powerful. Jakarta JSON has a couple of different ways to perform JSON patch. You can utilize a JSON document or make use of the JSON patch builder to perform a programmatic patch. The JSON pointer is used to find the exact location to which the patch will be applied, and then the operation is performed. Operations can consist of add, replace, remove, move, copy, or test, and they're applied in that order. So Jakarta Mail, everybody has used Java Mail in the past, I'm sure. Jakarta Mail is a standard framework for building mail and messaging applications. This framework can be used to send mail messages when specified in an application. One can also send text HTML format, and attachments can be added with ease. Service release 1.6.4 is included with Jakarta EE 8. Jakarta Messaging is an API that allows software to create, edit, read, and send messages between 3 other software applications or components. The API allows resources to be created with an application server that facilitates messaging capability in various contexts. And I think I said 3 other applications or components. I just meant other application components. The application server houses connection factory and destination resources, and these resources are created and maintained by the application server container. That said, different application server implementations might have minor variations in their JMS implementations. In addition to the basic messaging facilities, JMS also provides the ability to send messages to destinations and publish messages to subscriptions. And we can see how easy it is to go ahead and inject connection factories and queues and resources using annotations with Jakarta EE, and a lot less configuration than the old days. No more need for XML configuration to get Jakarta messaging to work. There's going to be a good presentation on this later today. Service Release 203 is included in Jakarta EE8. Jakarta Persistence. Jakarta Persistence is otherwise had been known as the Java Persistence API, and it's for management and persistence and object relational mapping in Jakarta EE and Java SE environments. This includes many features that were introduced with standard ORM strategies such as Hibernate and Toplink. JPA allows developers to choose from a variety of different providers and utilize configuration that may be most comfortable with for their applications. And it doesn't require the need for third-party libraries to be integrated in most cases. It's very easy to get started with JPA and switch between different implementations just by changing a couple of lines of references from within the application server container. Jakarta Persistence does have some new features that were brought to the API in the later releases. You're able to stream query results now by returning a stream using the getResultStream method on the JPA interfaces of query and typed query. Mark annotations as repeatable by using the repeatable annotation. This allows more than one of the same annotations to be used multiple times in a class or attribute without using container annotation. And also the datetime API is now supported in Jakarta Persistence, and the ability to utilize CDI injection within your attribute converters. Jakarta RESTful Web Services. So this is a set of interfaces and annotations for developing RESTful web services on the Jakarta EE platform. By simply annotating POJOs, it's easy to generate a RESTful web service without the need for XML configuration. As we can see in the code there that's on the screen, it's easy to supply a path or URI to your RESTful web service using an annotation, and then you can see that you can specify the producer and what type of RESTful web service method you're creating just by annotating. Release 2.1.6 is included with Jakarta EE8. So there are some newer features that were released in the more recent versions of Jakarta RESTful Web Services. These include improved CDI integration, reactive client API, non-blocking I/O, and server-sent events. Let's take a quick look at some of these newer features. So Jakarta RESTful Web Services, server-sent events. You can create an SSE resource using Jakarta RESTful Web Services and broadcast server messages to connected clients at will. We do this by annotating the method with produces and passing server-sent events as a produce type. May also pass text event stream to the produces annotation. Connection from the client to the server can remain open until the client disconnects. And the SSE interface is a server entry point for creating outbound SSE event and SSE broadcaster. Inject the SSE interface into field, or you can use it as a parameter. SSE event sync can be used to send a stream of messages acquired by injecting as a resource method parameter. And the SSE event is a base event class, outbound SSE event, packages an SSE event. Jakarta Security. So Jakarta Security allows developers to follow a standard API for securing applications, including authentication, authorization, data integrity, and transport security. The API also defines a security context access point for programmatic security. Service Release 1.0.2 is included with Jakarta EE8. This is very important as in the early days of Java EE, when the platform was older, everybody had to kind of create their own implementation for for security purposes, for accessing application authorization, authentication, and now that can kind of go away and everyone can start to follow a standardized API for developing their security in their application. For example, there's the role mapping API. One of the most important things is that it does provide a vendor agnostic way to perform authentication and authorization. In this example, we can just see how it can declare roles which are allowed to access the annotated servlet. Jakarta Server Faces. This has been a project that is probably one of the most popular MVC frameworks for building UIs for enterprise applications written in Java. This project has matured quite a bit over the years, and the latest releases have made it a modern framework which really is suitable for utilization with stateless applications. Release 2.3 is huge, and it's part of the Jakarta EE platform. Lots of new features in release 2.3. So one of the first new features I'll go over is the WebSocket integration. The WebSocket tag enables support for WebSockets within the JSF client views. This tag includes the required channel attribute, which is a value expression used to list a channel on which the WebSocket client will listen. The tag will also include a required onMessage attribute, which is also a value expression, and it's used to list the name of the JavaScript function that is going to be executed when the WebSocket message is received. As you can see in the on the screen there's a JavaScript function named message listener, and that's going to get executed when the message is received. Use the WebSocket tag, which was new with the release of JSF 2.3, to send a message to all listening clients. And on this example, the user can type a message into the box and click the send button, and that type message will be sent to all other clients that are currently listening on the same channel. Jakarta Server Pages. This is a technology that's been long-standing in the enterprise, known as JSP as well. It's extremely powerful for development of web UIs via the use of HTML, XML, or other document types. The JSP technology enables developers to embed Java directly into a view if needed, or to communicate with the business logic using the expression language. JSP can be enhanced to be made even more useful by pairing it with other technologies, such as Jakarta Standard Tag Library. Service Release 2.3.5 is part of the Jakarta EE release. Jakarta Servlet. This is a foundational technology for interacting with the web in the Jakarta EE platform. Web frameworks are built on top of the Servlet API, abstracting away some of the lower level details of utilizing servlets. However, servlet technology can be exceptionally powerful when used directly, especially given some of the latest features that have been added to the technology. Service Release 4.0.3 is being released as part of Jakarta EE 8. There have been a number of important features added to Jakarta Servlet over the past couple of years, including request response multiplexing, stream prioritization, server push, HTTP2 support, which is very important. So let's take a look at the Push API. The Push Builder interface was introduced with Servlet 4.0. That's part of the Jakarta EE 8 platform. Push Builder is used to push a request based on the HTTP servlet request. Once the Push Builder is obtained, it can be used to add resources via path method, and these are sequentially pushed to the client while the target page is being processed. In this example, a couple of PNG image resources are added to the path method. However, an application can be coded such that any resources that is required by the specified page can be pushed preemptively to the client and loaded into the browser cached. Once obtained, Push Builder can be used as many times as required. And after all the resources have been loaded, initiate the pushbuilder.push method to perform the push action. This is great because no longer do you have to send multiple requests in order to send resources to the client. Jakarta Stable APIs. This is a project encompassing stable legacy API and TCKs, which will not be developed further in the future. Some of these APIs include enterprise deployment, JAXR, which provides a single, easy-to-use abstraction API for accessing a variety of XML registries, Java APIs for XML-based remote procedure call, management API, and service release 1.0.1 is included as part of Jakarta EE8. Jakarta Standard Tag Library, JSTL is otherwise known as, encapsulates the simple tags that are the core functionality and common to many web applications. JSTL has support for common structural tasks such as iteration and conditionals, tags for manipulating XML documents, internationalization tags, and SQL tags. It also provides a framework for integrating existing custom tags with JSTL tags. Service release 1.2.4 is part of Jakarta EE8. And as I mentioned before, this is one of those APIs that can be paired with other technologies such as JSP to make it even more powerful. Jakarta Transactions. This allows applications to perform distributed transactions that can access and modify data on disparate network computer sources. The API consists of a standard Java interfaces between transaction manager and other parties that are involved in the system, including the application server container, resource manager, and the application itself. Service release 1.3.3 is included with Jakarta EE8. Jakarta WebSocket defines an API that can be utilized for the integration with WebSockets, both on the server side as well as on the client side. The implementation was provided by the Eclipse Tyrus project. WebSocket endpoints accept a string-based path attribute, and this is used to indicate the URI at which the server is available to receive client messages. By initiating a call to that URI, the method annotated with onMessage is invoked, processing the message that was sent to the client, via the client, excuse me. Service release 1.1.2 is part of Jakarta EE8. And this works hand in hand with that JSF F WebSocket tag. Jakarta XML Web Services. This is a programming language API for creating web services, particularly SOAP services. Jakarta XML Web Services is part of the Java XML programming APIs, and it's part of the Jakarta EE platform. And service release 2.3.2 is being shipped as part of Jakarta EE8. So that wraps it up for the different specifications and projects that are going to be part of Jakarta EE8. As you can see, there are quite a diverse number of specifications that will allow you to develop custom enterprise applications in modern technology and modern ways, using annotations, lots less XML configuration, very easy to develop cloud-based applications, cloud-ready, and microservices-based applications alike. So let's take a look into the near future and see what may be coming down the road for future releases of Jakarta EE. So we know, as heard in the earlier session by Kevin, that namespaces have been discussed. There's been a very large discussion in Jakarta EE working group and the community over the renaming of the spaces from JavaX to Jakarta.x. Making changes such as these means that there may be some backwards incompatibility down the road, but regardless, this is a change that will need to occur before new code can be released under Jakarta EE. And our Jakarta EE working group and community is working out the best ways to do this. So looking ahead into something like JSF 3.0, there is already actually work underway. If you go to the GitHub project on the EE4J project, you can see that quite a bit of work has been done for JSF 3.0. Some of that work involves removal of old concepts such as managed beans and getting rid of JSF's own expression language and using the unified EL only. We're moving, more artifacts have been moved towards CDI. We're seeing that this is kind of a big movement throughout all of Jakarta EE, getting things to work with the CDI in a more uniform manner. Action model is going to be possibly included in JSF 3.0 just to provide a different way of doing things, not to duplicate what's currently available with Eclipse Crezo. And extensionless mapping is a possible other new feature that is being discussed. Looking down the road to Jakarta Security 1.1, we're going to be seeing more CDI compatible, possibly with roles allowed, custom authorization roles, and possibly in addition, authentication mechanisms such as OAuth 2 or OpenID Connect. Looking at Jakarta Concurrency, looking to possibly get some of the EJB technologies over into Concurrency project. And this would include things such as the EJB timer service and the asynchronous invocations. And make creation of concurrency services such as the managed executor service more portable. That would be very important. If we take a look at Jakarta Expression Language 3.1, Expression Language has included its own implementation of streams and lambdas, but it'd be a good idea to map Java SE implementation of these lambdas in the future. So that's what we're hoping to do. And also the ability to obtain even more information from a method and value expressions would enable more granularity within our views. So that wraps it up for what's included with this brief overview of Jakarta EE platform. So what we should do now is go and grab your copy of Glassfish 5.1 or Open Liberty or another Jakarta EE compatible container, download and start to work with the APIs and build your applications for Jakarta EE 8. Now this platform is all about open source and the community, so it cannot go forward unless community is participating. So Eclipse Foundation and the Jakarta EE working group need your support, need your help and feedback and contributions if possible to help move the code forward and move the platform forward. So I appreciate you listening to the presentation. At this time, I'm going to end the slideshow and I'll answer any questions you might have. I see that there was a question. Are there any plans to test Jakarta EE features with Archillion? I know that there are people who have been working with testing against Archillion. I know that I've been testing some of the newer features of Java EE with Archillion, and certainly we'll be working with Archillion and Jakarta EE as well. I'm planning on trying to move that forward. Are there any plans for a reactive specification in Jakarta EE? Not quite sure yet. The next, certainly some reactive will be coming to Jakarta EE platform at some point in the future, I imagine, but I'm not sure exactly when that will occur. Jakarta EE 9 is going to be big changes with the namespaces. So we're going to have to wait and see how many new specifications or projects can be brought into Jakarta EE 9. was a project which implements Jakarta Concurrency 1.1. I'm not quite sure what that question is, but I'd be happy to point you to some examples if you're asking if there are some examples. Does Eclipse have plans to use Eclipse Link and other Eclipse solutions for Jakarta EE? Well, certainly Eclipse Link can be used as part of the Jakarta Persistence API. How about JavaScript MVC specification? That's all good. It's going to be important to see what happens with Jakarta EE 9. That's going to be a defining release to see what will happen with the as far as getting newer projects off the ground and running. I believe that Eclipse specification process is going to move projects along in a quick fashion. We're going to be able to see this platform continue to evolve at a faster pace than Java EE did in the past. It's going to be very interesting to see. I see a question, is EJB going to be retired? Certainly, there are talks about moving some of the EJB functionality into other projects such as CDI, and also, as I had mentioned, probably moving some features into concurrency. Does that mean EJB will be retired? Not sure. But if some of those features are moved towards other technologies, I imagine that EJB eventually, once everything has been accounted for within the other projects, it may go away. I'm not sure if Jakarta EE 9 is going to be more modular, but really, if you think about it, modularity can happen right now with Jakarta EE 8, right? When we talk about modularity with enterprise application, we're really talking about microservices in a way, right? Developing targeted services that will perform targeted tasks, and when they are orchestrated together, then they can create an application. One of the things I want to go back to the question about Archillion. I really would like to see more standardized testing around the Jakarta EE platform, and so hopefully we can do something with maybe Archillion or some other testing strategy, and make something more standard that we can apply to our Jakarta EE projects. APIs such as money and concurrency, or excuse me, money and currency are not part of Java EE. Why not? Or excuse me, Jakarta EE. These were not part of Java EE, and certainly at some point in the future they could be part of Jakarta EE. But I think those are more Java Standard Edition because money and currency can certainly be used all throughout the Java platform, not just in enterprise. So microprofile TCKs, it sounds like Arjen is telling us that CDI, Jakarta Validation, and Jakarta Batch are all using Archillion. Hi, Tanya.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now.
Okay, fantastic. Sorry about that. I see you are doing amazing and managing all the questions and stuff, so which is great. I was just hoping while you're still answering, and we have 10 more minutes, to share additional, to share a screen on my end and have the some accompanied ads rolling for the people.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you please go ahead. Do answer all the questions.
Sure. I see there is a question out there. Do you see MicroProfile and Jakarta EE moving together in the future? I'm not quite sure yet. I think it's too early to tell about something like that. There's certainly lots of discussion in the community about MicroProfile and Jakarta EE and using these technologies together. And I can certainly see something along the lines of utilizing some of the more mature MicroProfile APIs within something like the Jakarta EE platform. Pulling some of those more mature APIs into the platform might make sense. Jakarta EE certainly would benefit from utilizing some of those great features such as config. There's a question about how to sell Jakarta EE to people who use JBoss. I'm not quite sure on that one, other than just looking at the future of Jakarta EE and how this platform is going to be robust and going into the future for making cloud native services and applications, and this is the future of Java Enterprise. Any questions about any of the projects that are part of Jakarta EE8? I know that there are quite a few. I kind of just briefly touched upon them. I know that lots of these projects and specifications are probably low level, so we don't necessarily program directly to them when we're developing our applications, but they are an important part of Jakarta EE8 nonetheless.
So if there are no more questions, Josh, maybe we can close this session and invite people to join the next one. We'll also pull them in, but at the same time, you know, we'll let you go and enjoy your coffee from JakartaOne Livestream mug. And
very good.
we're looking forward to our next session, as well as I do need to point out there is another great conference that we're working on, and that is the EclipseCon Europe 2019. So please have a look, register, and let us know if you can participate in the Community Day. That's a Community Day. The Community Day is organized by community and for the community. So let us know if you'd like to be involved, and check out our pages. Okay, I'll end the broadcast at this point, and I'll see you all shortly in the next session. Josh, thank you so very much. And
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll be in touch and we'll be reaching out to you.
I'm very thankful to be part of this conference. I appreciate it, and thanks for doing such a great job.
Thanks, Josh. Bye for now.